Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wholesale Disclosure Webinar. I want to start by thanking you for joining us today. My name is Terry O'Keefe. I'm going to be the moderator, and the first thing I'd like to introduce our two guests today. First, we have Bob Pierce from the UCDA, Director of Member Services and instructor of the OMVIC certification course.
Thanks, Terry. It's a pleasure to be here. This is an important topic. I think there's still a lot of misunderstanding about what has to be disclosed wholesale and if I have to do it at all. So this is a good one, I think.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Bob. And also we're joined by OMVIC's new education officer, Farah Mohammed. Farah has a lot of experience here at OMVIC. She has been previously an inspector, a business standards coordinator, and a complaint handler. Farah, thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
So one of the things I'd just like to point out before I turn things over to Farah and Bob is that if you have any questions during the webinar, you can type them in the box that you see right here on this slide. And we will try to answer them. If we don't get to it during the webinar, we're going to take a few minutes at the end to discuss it. And if by chance we don't even get to all of them at that point in time, someone from OMVIC, either our business standards team or our complaints and inquiries team, will get back to you to answer your question. And I also just wanted to let you know that when the webinar is finished, you'll get a short questionnaire that's going to pop up in your screen. We would love to have your feedback so that we can improve these as we move forward.
Okay, so we're going to begin with wholesale disclosures. What must be disclosed on a wholesale contract when you're wholesaling a vehicle to another dealer? Now, some of you may have attended some of OMVIC's roadshow sessions that we did just recently in the fall, and a lot of the feedback and questions that we did get pertaining to the roadshow was surrounding wholesale disclosures. What are the dealer's obligations, and where can they find this information? The information pertaining to wholesale disclosures is actually located in Section 5 of the Code of Ethics. Very similar to the retail disclosures that you're very, very familiar with, but it differs very slightly, and we're going to get into the differences between retail and wholesale disclosures further into the presentation. Note when we're talking about disclosures, again, similar to retail disclosures, providing these disclosures verbally does not suffice. All of these disclosures that we're going to be talking about today must be made in writing on the wholesale contract.
And what you're looking at right now is actually the bottom part of the UCDA's wholesale bill of sale. And what I want to bring your attention to is the big black line that says mandatory disclosures. These are required by law, and what I've seen from some wholesale deals are done quickly. They're done over the phone. Bills of sale are filled up quickly, and this information has to be clear. It has to be comprehensible. It's got to be prominent on the bill of sale. The example you've got there is the vehicle's out of Quebec, collision repair, and the dollar amount is there. All too often we see things like just collision repair or accident repair or things like that, and so what's got to be disclosed on the wholesale is certainly what you've been told about the car, or what is on the bill of sale when you bought it, and it's got to be disclosed further. One of the ones we're going to talk about is something that the auctions and the associations have had some discussion on, and that's on disclosure on the bill of sale, what's required in the MVDA, but what also is required by the NAAA. And the auction's own rules internal to the auction go a little further with regards to mechanical defects and dollar amounts that have to be disclosed. We're also going to talk later on when we talk about branding, and we talk about the second disclosure of deemed total loss by an insurance company. And the auctions have made some pretty serious decisions on this.
They're significant.
They're significant, and we want to get that message out as well. So we'll talk about that when it comes to branding, but you are governed also by the NAAA rules if these cars are sold wholesale through the auctions.
Okay, so what must be disclosed? We're going to jump right into what must be disclosed on a wholesale disclosure document. And the collision and incident damage discussion that we've always talked about when it comes to retail disclosures is very, very similar, if not exact, when you're wholesaling a vehicle. So if the vehicle has been in an accident and or collision of $3,000 and or more, this must be disclosed in writing on the contract. Similarly, prior use disclosure. So if the vehicle was previously used as a taxi and or limo, emergency service vehicle, so for example, a police cruiser, or daily rental. So if it was previously used as a daily rental, not subsequently owned by a consumer, this too must be disclosed in writing when you're wholesaling a vehicle to another dealer. Any structural damages, repairs, alterations, fire damage, flood damage, so your liquid penetration to the interior floorboards at least, and if the vehicle has 2 or more adjacent panels that are not bumper panels that have been replaced, this too must be disclosed on that on the wholesale disclosure statement.
Disclosure is also required for this one is mine on branded motor vehicles, and you see the brand up in the top left-hand corner of the vehicle portion of the registration. The terms salvage, rebuilt, or irreparable will be there clearly. Irreparable vehicles you should never see on the road. Those vehicles have come off the road. The one you need to look at is the salvage one. If you're taking one that's salvaged, there's a whole lot of requirements at the ministry as far as previous insurance records. That's going to be a difficult one to put back on the road. The most common one you're going to see is rebuilt, and that's a salvage vehicle that has gone through the rebuilt process, the insurance inspection process, and has come back on the road.
And Bob, a vehicle that's been rebuilt is likely going to have other disclosures that are going to be required. It's probably going to have collision. If it's relatively new, the manufacturer's warranty has been canceled, that type of thing.
Well, and the other ones of structural damage, what has been repaired. So there are many disclosures other than just the accident repair, the brand, and then we get into the other one, which is the most controversial. It's going to take a little time, and that's this declared total loss by the insurance company and not branded. There are a significant number of vehicles that don't meet the requirements for branding a car by the insurance industry. So they are what we call economic losses, where the cost of the repair exceeds the value of the car or gets too close to it, and they write it off. That information is a lot more difficult to obtain. And so we have that issue on it. And this is where we talk a little bit about the auctions too and the decisions they've made. We run into a problem where the cars coming out of Impact or some of the other salvage auctions are being disclosed as accident repair. They've got the repair amounts or the damage amounts of the car. We've confirmed with those salvage companies that they also put the secondary mandatory disclosure, the second mandatory disclosure, deemed total loss by the insurance company. Those vehicles are then repaired and are being brought back to the auctions just as accident damaged motor vehicles, and this declared total loss by the insurance company is lost. The auctions have made a decision that those vehicles will have an unlimited arbitration period.
Unlimited?
Well, some discretion is going to be used if it goes into years after the sale. But at some point...
But it's not 7 days.
No, it's not. And it's going to go well beyond that, where these vehicles are going to come back through the chain of dealers that dealt in them, back to the person who didn't make the disclosure deemed total loss. And that seller is going to be required to buy that car back. And there is no discussion on it.
And has that change occurred? Is that what's going on right now
We've
the
confirmed
auctions?
with Odessa, Mannheim, TradeRev, the rest of them, they're all bound by NAAA rules. This is an Ontario one that they decided that they simply, this is important disclosure, it changes everybody's opinion of the car. If you tell me the car's accident damaged, I'm going to buy it. If you tell me it was written off for a total loss, I may not.
Because so that's going to affect the value.
Well, it's going to affect the value, but that disclosure is also going to have to be told to the next dealer, and if that's a retail, that disclosure is going to have to be told to the next consumer who buys it. So that's a significant change at the auction, and it's going to solve that problem where this second disclosure about declared total loss is going to stay with the car as an important disclosure through the rest of its life every time it's transferred or sold to another dealer. The other one you've got too is another new one since the rates change, and that has to do with anti-lock brakes. Are they operational? Again, you're not going to find that on a vehicle history report. Neither are you going to find that the airbags have been deployed, although I see some of it if the car's out of the U.S. Sometimes on these history reports you'll see that disclosure come through the U.S. disclosures, but certainly it's not coming out of any Canadian insurance disclosure that would appear on a CarProof or Carfax. So that's another one, is going to be, you're going to have to inspect the cars to see if these things, airbags are missing or the lights are on the dash, and that's going to point you to another problem. And again, it takes looking at these cars.
Yeah, and no, that's a very good point, Bob. All of these disclosures, if not pulled on a history report, put the vehicle up on a hoist, inspect the vehicle so that you're making these mandatory disclosures and you're practicing due diligence so that you're putting your best foot forward to make these disclosures. Similar, again, to retail contracts, if the vehicle was registered outside of the province of Ontario in the last 7 years, you need to disclose where it was registered in a clear, comprehensible, and prominent fashion. So, for example, if it comes from Quebec and it was registered in Quebec in the last 7 years, QC won't suffice. You want to spell out Quebec just for the sake of your audience and for the sake of clarity as well. Okay, and if the vehicle was ever stolen and recovered, that too must be disclosed in writing on the contract.
Continuing on, if the vehicle, and this is going to take an inspection of the vehicle, because again, this information is not readily available. Has the, I guess as a result of accidents or other incidents, has the vehicle, is it material different from the original or advertised production specifications? And you know, after 17 years of dealing with this stuff and the regs and stuff, I don't know exactly if I've ever seen something like that. So that's not something we run into all the time. The one that is kind of interesting that we have seen, and that comes out of the salvage and the salvage yards, is when these cars are rebuilt, the badging is not put back on them. You're not going to go out and go to manufacturer and pull all the badges and glue them or drill them on. So these vehicles are coming back without their badges, or they have been altered or changed. And again, altered and changed would be somebody doing something illegal. Similar with the odometer, is it broken, faulty, replaced, rolled back, or is it in miles? And we've got a significant number of cars that are going south, but we're also getting cars that are coming north. And the mileage, I was talking to one of our members yesterday, she didn't realize she had to make the specific disclosure the car was still in miles because it hadn't been changed. And we went through a list of disclosures she was going to have to make on this car if she bought it. So that's around, and that's important, that is the car in miles. And getting, again, further into the wholesale contracts, accurately reflect the true distance the vehicles traveled. And that goes to not rounding off numbers. I think I think I would accept an odometer with 1 0 in it, but I don't think I accept one with 2 or more.
This is actually a pet peeve of yours.
It is, and it comes down to how inaccurate will you tolerate anything in our industry. And I think if you can't go out and get the exact mileage off the car, anything with zeros on the end is somebody just guessing on what that reading is. And again, the wholesale disclosure requires the accurate mileage on the car. All too often we're seeing this number being copied from one wholesale contract to another one. Unfortunately, that information then goes to the Ministry of Transportation. It's inaccurate, and we get all of these issues with the history reports from the ministry that show the same mileage as it's gone through 3 or 4 dealers on the wholesale side of the business.
Is it really just a failure in the processes at a store?
I think so. I think that's it. It says you do the appraisal. It's a busy Saturday. You're taking in multiple cars. You're trying to get appraisals and trying to get these numbers. But with the 5% tolerance, and when you go around and sell these cars again, we're seeing cars that are being returned for no reason except that somebody was too lazy to go and get the real numbers and put them on the wholesale contracts or on the retail contracts. Again, it's the same.
So at the beginning, when we were introducing these wholesale disclosures, I said that they slightly differ between retail disclosures. And here's one of the areas where retail disclosures and wholesale disclosures slightly differ. So you are all familiar with the retail disclosure statement when it comes to material facts. So any fact that could alter the consumer's decision to buy the vehicle must be disclosed in writing on the contract. However, when it comes to wholesale disclosures, dealers must disclose any fact about the vehicle that affects the structural or mechanical quality or performance of the vehicle, and if that is disclosed, could reasonably influence the purchaser to purchase or not purchase that vehicle. Okay,
and I think, Farah, it is important that the retail side is very specific, and it says you must disclose if there's problems with the engine, transmission. That verbiage doesn't appear on the wholesale disclosure forms, but it does. There is a point to the mechanical quality of the vehicle, and I think it comes down to serious mechanical problems with the car. You got to realize wholesale transactions are done over the phone, and paperwork shows up at some point later. And if you know the engine is done on the car, simply making disclosures that the red light is on the dash is not going to be sufficient when you come to resell that vehicle down the line.
You actually just had a case very much like that.
That's exactly it. And I think this section really has to talk about serious mechanical problems that you're aware of that must be passed on the wholesale side of the business.
So simply suggesting that a check engine light is on when you actually know the engine is blown,
and again,
that's not going to cut it.
I haven't seen many of those anyway. I think you know, at the auction, certainly you're going to be told what's wrong with the car. That's going to appear on the bill of sale, and then that's going to be expected on the next bill of sale when you sell it. So pay attention to what the auctions are saying and get some details when you're buying cars wholesale as to what that check engine light really might mean. Do you know anything more about it? And again, that has to be on the bill of sale and detail that information.
So just before we kind of go into our summary of wholesale disclosures here, Bob, we briefly talked about failures of process can often be the problem.
Right.
You know, we've talked before, just as the U and the UCDA offer a service that you'll go out and do these educational presentations to dealerships, as do we. And Farah and I were at a Ford dealer not too long ago, talking about disclosure, both retail and wholesale. And when we got to the wholesale part, the general manager looked across the desk at his wholesaler and said, "So you're making all these required disclosures, right, whenever you wholesale a car?" And I'll give him full marks. He was completely honest. He said, "I've never made one." And they discovered right then and there that the problem, it wasn't that they didn't want to make the disclosures, but the wholesaler actually said, "I never see the deal jacket, so I never see the trade-in statement. I don't know what's wrong with the cars when I wholesale them." And to the GM's credit, he said, that ends today, and they introduced a process to try and deal with this.
And well, that's what I said at the beginning. I think there's still a lot of confusion in the industry about wholesale disclosure as to what has to go on, and I think it really starts with a car is new and it's driven for 3 years and it's traded back in. What information is determined at the appraisal process? That information goes in the docket. Somebody decides they're going to wholesale the car, and that information's got to go to the wholesaler. And I think you're right. I think there's an awful lot of decision being made that give me the keys, give me the registration, it's a wholesale deal, and out the door it's going, without making what is legally required. And I've seen what you're talking about before. And I think we need to, and that's why I think this is a very good topic to have at this time. We're getting into the selling season now. Hopefully it picks up, and wholesale disclosure is legally required.
And if you're going to provide full disclosure to your customer, it's very difficult to do if the dealer that you bought the car from hasn't provided it to you.
That's right. And again, when we spent a lot of time writing this stuff between 2000 and 2010, and the wholesale disclosure really wasn't. We spent a lot of time on it to make sure that whatever happens to these cars stays with the car. It doesn't get lost through the wholesale transfer of these vehicles. So that it's got its details. So the next time it's sold retail, that customer gets the real story about the car. In the old days, and I hate to go back that far, but that wholesale disclosure was lost through the transfer wholesale of the car before it got out retail again.
Now, Bob, sometimes we actually get calls from consumers and or dealers that said the dealer didn't disclose this, or a dealer will call us and say the selling dealer didn't disclose that the vehicle was an ex-daily rental, for example. And if you do have an issue when it comes to wholesale disclosures not being made to you, you can actually contact our OMVIC's inquiries team, and they will mediate and provide you with conciliation services for a dealer-to-dealer transaction if something was not disclosed to you. So for all you dealers listening, please pass the message on. If you have any questions and or concerns pertaining to your wholesale disclosure obligations, OMVIC is always here to help. You could give us a call, and we will provide the contact number at the end of the presentation as well.
And I think just adding to that, the trade associations also get involved. We get involved in an awful lot of dealer-to-dealer disclosure issues, and we'll deal with them. But I think the other message here is the auctions, and they have their own set of rules, and they may go beyond what the MVDA says. Their arbitration departments will stick to those rules. We already talked about the total loss one, but I think the industry has to know those disclosure rules from getting the pamphlets at the auction, and know what the arbitration rules are on a wholesale transaction. I think it's important. I think we have to understand they're at the auctions, get them and read them.
Yeah.
And I know, as we're going through the summary here, I know there was something that you wanted to touch on as well, and that is know the wholesaler. And if you don't, make sure they are actually a wholesaler, because
we have some issues, and you know, we're seeing a lot more cars exported, a lot more people getting into this business of selling cars around the world. And we know you folks are looking at who the dealers are selling these cars to. If someone's approaching you to buy cars wholesale, they need that MVDA number in the top purchaser's box of the wholesale bill of sale in the top right-hand corner. And all too often, if they can't prove they're registered, you're selling cars to someone who's not, and they're in the business of dealing in vehicles, and you're going to be held responsible for that.
You're supplying a curbsider.
On the other side, you know, you've got a garage register, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at a garage register and see how many times you sold a car to Bob Pierce, who does not have the dealer's license. So the paperwork's important in getting all of the details. Who are you buying these cars from, and who are you selling them to?
And for the dealers listening, if someone shows up and they tell you they're from Bob Pierce's wholesale, and that they're a dealer, but you don't know, it's really easy to find out. You can go to the OMVIC website. In the top right corner, on every web page, there's a button that says Find a Dealer. You can check to make sure they're actually registered. And even simpler, just simply say, can I see your OMVIC license? You all have one. You all carry it. It's probably in your wallet. You all have one. Wholesalers will have one too. If they claim that they're from another dealership or a wholesaler, or if they're an exporter.
Or a broker. Well, the exporter one is the one we're seeing the most common.
Yeah.
I'm an exporter. I'm transferring cars to Europe or wherever, and they're offering you a price for the vehicle. It's a good deal for you, and it's only going to be a good deal if they're registered as a dealer.
And whether you're a general dealer or a wholesaler or an exporter or a broker, they will have an OMVIC license. Simply ask to see it. And if they don't have one, you want to make sure that you're not supplying an illegal exporter or a curbsider.
That's right.
And you can also call us toll-free too to verify if that wholesaler is registered or not as well. And you want to make sure that you're filling out an appropriate wholesale disclosure statement and document as well. So some of you might be using an electronic system to provide your wholesale disclosures. Just make sure that it is filled out in its entirety. Bob, this is one of the UCDA's samples right here. And as you can see, it very clearly states mandatory disclosure statements as required by the MVDA 2002. And it's got areas where you can provide more substantial disclosures at the very bottom as well.
The most common one we're seeing is obviously out-of-province vehicles, so we've clearly made it easy on the wholesale side for the out-of-province and where, in fact, in what state or what province it came from. You've got your accident damage disclosures, but it's important that there's more than just one, and that's the most common. It exceeds $3,000. We get that information off different reports, but you got to think about this as far as, are the badges and decals back on the car? Was it deemed a total loss? Is there frame damage that's been repaired? So there's a lot more than just what's on these vehicle history reports that has to be disclosed. And certainly the auctions are taking a very strict position on this stuff.
Exactly, and that goes back to the point that we referenced earlier. Inspect the vehicles. Again, if it's not being listed on the history report that you're looking at, put the vehicle up on a hoist, inspect it, just so that you're making these mandatory disclosures.
The other one too, if we just go back quickly just for a second, is the bottom one. I'm not making any disclosures on this vehicle. If you get in the habit of ticking that off, perhaps it'll bring something for, well, wait a second, I can't take this box off because I do know something about the car. So very often we don't see that box ticked off, and it could be just a reminder that says, wait a minute, do I know this for sure? This vehicle doesn't require, this vehicle isn't perfect. It's a,
And when you do your audits, when you're looking at wholesale deals, are the bills of sale fairly whether or not disclosures are there, are they fairly compliant though with potentially providing all the information?
I think they could take a little more time to give this some thought on completing the documents, from what I've seen. I think there's certainly an education part of it as to what has to be disclosed, so I hope this is useful, but certainly this document's got to be, a little more time's got to be spent on this document, Terry.
Okay, so you might have some questions about wholesale disclosures. You might not, they might not come to you right away. So we've got many resources available to dealers when it comes to wholesale disclosure obligations. You can obviously give us a call and our inquiries team will be happy to answer any of your questions. You could go to OMVIC's website, just click on dealers and salespersons, and under the MVDA requirement tab, you can find the wholesale disclosure obligations there. We also will have a copy of this educational webinar hosted on our website very shortly, most likely on Tuesday to satisfy the fact that it is the long weekend. And as soon as it is sent out, we will send out a bulletin reminding dealers that this is now available on our website for your listening and viewing pleasure.
Yeah, so if by chance you've got staff that you wanted to sit in today and they weren't able to join us, it'll be there and you'll be able to point them to it.
Exactly, and we've done that in the past too with past webinars that we've done here with Bob, and I'm sure that the UCDA and the other trade associations have many resources available for you as well, right Bob?
We do, and then again, as quickly as we can get it, it'll be on UCDA's website along with the other disclosure webinars we've done. I think it's important, as I said, and certainly calling the UCDA if you've got questions on this, or you've got concerns, or want somebody to help you try and mediate a solution with another dealer, we're quite prepared to do that as well.
And we will actually send out a bulletin next week as soon as this webinar is live on the website, so that you'll know if you do want to share it with someone else.
And we have seminars and webinars available to all dealers for free. So if you wanted an OMVIC representative to come to your dealership, it might not be about wholesale disclosure obligations. It might be about retail obligations, maybe advertising or CPA or Sales of Goods Act information as well. We can come out to your dealership and present this information at no cost to you. So if you are interested in hosting an educational seminar and or webinar, you can contact myself directly, and we can definitely set something up for you, and we'll come out and educate your staff further on any topics that you're interested in.
And we've come to the end of the webinar. Over 100 of you joined us, and I want to thank you very much for taking the time this morning to join us. I want to thank Bob very much for coming up from the UCDA, and Farah, thank you to the team behind the scenes here making this magic work. Thank you very much. You guys did an amazing job, because we didn't get a single question.
Oh, wow.
But I do, if you do have questions, there's still an opportunity for you to provide them. And as I said, there's going to be just a very short opportunity as well for you to provide feedback. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank everyone again for taking the time to join us, and thank you guys for coming out.
You're welcome, Derek. It's been a pleasure.